You're tuned into RX Radio. Movement prescribed. Brought to you by Prescript.com. A personalized approach to keeping you healthy and making your best even better. Your hosts, Dr. Jordan Shallow and Dr. Jordan Jiunta.
I feel like if the three of them, visually, were one and the same. It was like a poor
like small,
description.
medium, large is what's going on.
Well,
right
a poor
here.
description would get us all three in a lineup. All three of us are going to end up in downtown
White
San
guy
Jose.
with
White
a
guy
beard.
somewhere between 5'8" and 6 foot. It's like slick hair, fade lineup. It's like was last seen wearing a black T-shirt, maybe plaid. Like that's pretty much it.
I'm so happy you think I'm 5'8".
I don't know. You know what I do? I went to a Safeway in Los Altos. What was it, last night, the night before? I was there with my dog. I brought him to the grocery store because you can just when you have a German
What
Shepherd.
the fuck?
Yeah,
I've never seen a German Shepherd in a grocery
you can't
store.
do it with a fucking Pomeranian, but when you have like a real dog and you lift weights, I think people just assume I'm in the military when I have a German Shepherd and no one says shit. It's like, that guy's probably got PTSD. Just let him go through frozen foods. Everything's going to be fine. That dog looks like he's going to kick my ass.
Or they think you're a drug dealer and you're going to kill them.
Either way, especially when I roll up in the Tahoe.
Yeah.
I rented a Chevy Tahoe over the weekend, murdered out. And I roll up with the Chevy. Anyways, this guy comes up to me. It's fucking 9 o'clock at night. They're closing shop. And this guy, doesn't even introduce himself. And shout out if he's listening. It's always cool, when people recognize you and stuff. But, this guy doesn't introduce himself after, but goes, "You're shorter than I thought you'd be." And that was the intro. I'm like, whoa. He starts off with a negative compliment. What are you, Killian Hamilton?
Good
that's
for him, man. Next, yeah.
That's your go-to move out of the gate. I was so, because I've never got that before. I usually get, oh, you're bigger than I thought you were. You're taller or bigger. I was like, this guy totally nagged me. I'll remember him forever, man.
How'd that feel? Because that's
that's
how people address me all the fucking
At the end of the day, it's people know me because I talk shit on the internet. How sweet is that? If I can turn a buck and keep doing that, I don't care. You're bigger. As long as you're not oh, you're a bigger asshole than I thought you'd be. That would make me upset, but I don't care, man.
That would make you upset?
Yeah, man. I don't want to be an asshole to people. I'll be an asshole to you guys because you're my friends. But for the general population, I try and be pretty nice. I think. Yeah, I've seen guys I've been in places with other people who live on the internet, and their default when people come up to them is in the gym is oh. I'm working out. It's dude, come on. The reason you're able to work out is because people know who you are. Take the time to take the time, So whatever, man. You were there. You were there in Toronto where that dude was I was telling you about that the other day. Where the guy at the airport.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to tell me to move my car, and I was ready to go tell him to fuck off. And he's oh, you're the muscle. I was yeah, fucking dope, man. Sweet. So I can stay here all day? Awesome.
People just don't recognize me, and it's great.
Anonymity, bro. Dude, it'll you're just starting on the internet. You're just moving your stuff in.
Yeah.
It's awesome. You've gone out with I did this with Kayla. I just left a sweater, and now she lives with me. So
it's kind of like your name's on the lease, and I'm just borrowing a room, and I can leave at any time.
You're Trojan horsing. Fuck that, dude. You're in this, man. You're handcuffed to this arrangement.
That's not good for either of you guys.
Yeah, I don't know. You were in the Muscle Bill episode.
Yeah.
Where we gave you no formal introduction.
Yeah.
It's here's yet another bearded white guy for you guys to differentiate. Killian Hamilton. Give us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a bearded white guy. I look like a cross between Jiunta and Shallow, so just put those two things in your mind and don't throw up. Yeah, competitive powerlifter. Started with the Prescript crew. Pretty interested in more the neurological side of things in terms of how to acquire skill and how the acquisition of skill can at some point trump performance in other ways. Work smart, not hard, and what does that really mean? But yeah, competitive powerlifter, trained for bobsled, got hit in the head a bunch of times. Now I do this.
That's why he does this, probably.
Natural evolution.
Yeah, that's the buy-in.
All roads that lead to Rome have head trauma in it. Listen, how many times have you been hit in the head? I can't remember. Perfect.
Yeah, you'll fit right in.
Yeah, try this shirt on. Great. Stand there.
Interesting fact, Windsor boy.
Windsor.
Right. Shout out Windsor,
Which
man.
is pretty much the Dallas, Pennsylvania of Canada.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Less
so
clan.
did you two know each other before the last couple of years.
No.
From Windsor.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Just ironically, but that's when I knew I couldn't trust him. When he said he's from Windsor, I thought this is a good guy to know.
Yeah.
Keep
You're
him close.
South Side, West Side though.
Yeah.
Yeah. South Side, West Side's real. You're burbs though.
I'm burbs though. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like super
Sandwich.
hard.
Yeah.
But like not super hard in Windsor is still like
Harder than most.
yeah,
harder
like,
than anyone in Northern California.
It basically the difference is you kind of have a minor in pharmacology when people in hard parts of Windsor have like a master's of pharmacology. It's like, hey, don't mix that. Don't mix that. You can put that up your nose. You can put that in a syringe. All right, that's kind of where our limits. That's like what they teach you in grade school, like in the burbs in Windsor. But no, we didn't meet each other till the Toronto course. When were you there? Yeah, we did the level 4 course in Saga, and then yeah, man, down for the cause, and that's the thing. It's like I find with Americans, there's like very much like a state identity that exists. Like you meet people from PA, you're like, oh no way. Like you an Eagles fan? It's great. You want to be pieces of shit together? Like that's kind of how it goes down. But it's like you could be from Pennsylvania and then someone's from like Florida, and they're like, oh yeah, all right, sweet. Yeah, my grandma lives there now. Great. She's got STDs in her nursing home. Like that's kind of like the extent of it. But like in Canada, it's like, oh, you're from like north of the 49th parallel. Do you want to be friends?
Yeah, you're
Do you know Steve from Edmonton? I know Steve too. Let's be friends. Where it's like America's very much like segregated by state identity. So, but the fact that Windsor has like a very, in my opinion, yeah, because it's like a little bit blue collar, no collar, hard nosed than like most places.
And it just gets talked shit about, right? Like you say Windsor to anybody, and they're like, "Oh, that place sucks." Like, what are you talking about, man?
Dude, it's only
great.
the people who stay say it sucks. The people who leave think it's amazing because it prepares you for everything. Yeah, it's like
only up from here.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood.
It's like as you drive in, it's like, well, this is rock bottom. This is as low as it's gonna get.
And then when you go back, you're always a rock star.
Dude, the way I compare it is like when Adam Sandler and Mr. Deeds goes back to Mandrake Falls, and he's like, yeah, that one guy went to Disneyland, and other than that, no one's left. That's what it's like. Shout out Windsor. But no, we did not know each other prior to the pre-script stuff. But there's like shared experiences when you're from the dub.
Yeah, definitely. And just mindset, I think, too. Like, not in a weird way, but it's just like you think the same. Like, you value hard work.
Yeah, similar upbringing, similar outlook on life.
Probably no different than Dallas, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, what are you, coal miners?
Yeah.
I just pictured Dallas, Pennsylvania.
Anthracite.
I
Like,
just pictured
what is
like
it?
that.
Anthracite coal.
That sounds like cancer.
I mean, it literally is.
I think I heard that on a class action lawsuit. Like,
Yeah.
have you been exposed to anthracite? Please call 1-800-CALL-SAM.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
But yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about like growing, because like in the fitness industry, I think we've worked pretty hard. Like, you know, we've got our reps in and like doing Cairo stuff. Like compared, we know kids we graduated with, and it's like, I remember running into a kid one year on a Sunday, and he was headed to the pool in my apartment complex as I was headed to work. That's because I work 7 days a week. It's because I owe $1 bajillion to a bank in Canada. So it's like, like Mike Shallow taught me that you work until the debt's paid off. And this guy was like, oh, I headed to the pool, you know? I'm like, no. He's like, you know, got to take a day off. Got to take one for yourself. It's like, yeah, sweet. Saw him a year later. Hey, man, how things going? You know, drive an Uber part-time. It's like, crushing it, bro.
Yeah.
Crushing it. Good thing you got that, like, $180,000 fucking loan ski hanging under your rear view mirror. Where's your office wall again? Like, you fucking schmuck.
It's so appropriate to shout out Champagne Poppy right here. Have you heard his new song? It just starts off working on the weekend like usual.
Yeah.
Really?
I play that every weekend when I'm headed to work. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for
Someone
consoling me.
knows.
See, I play Started
Thank you,
from
Aubrey.
the bottom because that's just Windsor's anthem.
So either way, it comes back to Champagne Poppy.
Yeah, but it's
shout out
like,
Drake.
100%. We got to get him to sponsor this
At
podcast.
Champagne
He will
Poppy.
never.
Get
Yeah,
him on.
just
His,
the
his
OV.
airplane is way too big to associate with us.
Could you imagine if we all had like the OVO owl? Like Prescript was like all of a sudden in those like real bougie Lacoste looking stores that he's got everywhere. That guy can literally sell anything. You put that fucking stupid, and what is it? October's very own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
It's like
He's born
his
in
birthday,
October,
yeah.
dude.
June's very own does not work.
No, it all
JVO.
Yeah.
Because you're June too.
I'm June.
Fucking
Let me guess.
right.
You're June like 2nd.
No, May.
Oh, a little
19th?
too early.
You're 19th,
19th.
right? Got it.
All right.
Nailed
Shout
it.
out
Nailed
Kevin
it.
Garnett.
Yeah, no one cares. Again, must I remind you, you're the company of 2 other white dudes with beards. But no, like the mindset thing, like you said, like relatively to what I'm used to, I don't work hard. right? Because I don't work 12 hours in a fucking factory. Like, I don't put 3 screws in the door of a Pacifica and not shoot up my coworkers, right?
And having some level of pride in what you do makes it not necessarily seem like work, right? Yeah. Like, I've been at the, you guys see me fucking dragging my ass in here. It's been 13-hour days all week, but fuck it, dude. I haven't complained once.
Dude, it's been 13-hour days for 5 years,
well,
dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's been since Jump Street that you've been on that.
Yeah.
But it's
real.
like, I think it's if you find, like, because you get taught, like, I don't know, half my friends' parents lost their job in 2008.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what did your dad do? Well, he used to make seat belts, but they don't sell cars anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, man. Like, people were foreclosing on houses and stuff, but, like, people still found meaning in making seat belts, right? And it's like, well, it's pretty easy to find meaning in, like, being able to help people. Like, that's not a stretch. So it's like, oh, how do you do it? Like, he's been traveling with me, and you've done a bit of traveling. It's like, how do you work this certain? Because it's like, it's fucking easy. But if you grew up, honestly, imagine how different you'd be if you grew up here.
Yeah, it'd be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Well,
I graduate with my 4-year degree and have a $150,000 job waiting for me. It's fucking, that's just the normal around here.
I had a kid I worked with. He went to the NFL after, and he was so laissez-faire about it. He was a good dude, a hell of an athlete, fucking amazing athlete. But he's like, oh yeah, like he did his 4-year business degree. Dad works for a hedge fund. Like, either way you cut it, he does well at a pro day, he does well at the combine. He goes, yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, like in a few years, he'll be making $2 million. It's like whether it's on the line of scrimmage or whether it's on fucking Wall Street. It's like, yeah. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what's wrong
It's like,
with you,
dude, like you have a choice when you're in like the 10th grade, and if you don't like take the right path, it's like, I mean, there's buddies in my neighborhood. One of my friends lived in a really, really hard neighborhood, and like we did an inventory last time I was home, and half the kids that grew up there were either dead or in jail. And it's like they made that choice in like the 10th grade, maybe even early, or that choice was made for them. It's like if you had an opportunity, you took it, you got out. Right? We're here, it's like your opportunities are what? Hedge fund or the NFL. It's like, man, real tough life you got there. But when you see the wheels fall off with those kids, it's like you've never had a problem in your life.
It's funny because I was having this exact conversation last night with somebody about like people who have experienced no stress. And then, like, the implication of any amount of stress, like how catastrophic that is versus, like, say, people who grew up in Dallas and Windsor. And it's like your ability to adapt to stress is already so high because you wake up every day ready for stress, like ready to get beat up if you're me, or, like, ready to beat people up if you're you.
So much?
But it's just like you're so ready. Like, again, it's that idea of, like, a boxer is not going to get stimulated from rolling on a foam roller. You know what I mean? You got to hit him with a kettlebell. It's like to wake him up. It's the same thing from Windsor. Like, shit's got to really go wrong. Like, I can look at my bank account right now and see 30 cents, and it's not stressful. I'm stoked.
Wait, it doesn't show up in red characters?
Yeah.
You're sweet, man.
All right,
Yeah.
It's going to be a good day.
Yeah.
But it's like some other dude, the wheels fall off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's fentanyl straight to the dome.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about, like, everything being relative. Like, you were talking about, like a bit of like you talked about like Stoic philosophy the other day.
Oh my god!
So it's so funny because like we're like the anti-thought process of podcasts because we're not running around in our underwear. We're not talking about how to make stuff easier. We're pretty much saying stuff is hard and you're all like pussies and just buck up. But it's like how like do you listen to Tim Ferriss or anything like that?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. 100%. I'm the same way. But he was like all head first into Stoicism, and then like a lot of people share like the Ryan Holiday thing, and people air out their philosophic, Stoic philosophies on an IG story because that's what Epictetus was all about. And this guy had the most blunt way to explain Stoicism, and it's like that's Windsor, like that's people who've grown up in stress. Go.
Yeah, so it's like the idea, and like this isn't me. I think this is like me poorly paraphrasing Dostoevsky, but it's the idea that like you can live in a bucket if you live in Greece because it's always 15 degrees and no one's trying to fucking kill you. You can't live in a bucket in Russia because it's -40 and everyone's starving. So it's like Stoicism only works for those who have had to understand how to have not. But it's like you grow up in Windsor, Russia, or Dallas, and it's like you need a community. There's no Stoicism. Like, who's the godfather of Stoicism? Marcus Aurelius? He's a military general, bro.
Yeah, he was doing all right.
Yeah, he's sitting in a tent with like 40 dudes doing whatever they do in tents in Rome, and he was loving his life. Like, that dude can live in a bucket. None of us can live in a bucket. So it's like Stoicism only works for Tim Ferriss. If you have everything, you can also have nothing.
Yeah, even if you have fake Lyme disease. What is that guy's deal? But that's the thing. That's like mo money, mo problems. right? But more money, more problems for someone who's never had problems.
Okay, so same conversation I was having. But no, I was just talking about, like, as you ascend, like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like, as you get further and further away from what you need, like, the primal fear of stress that you endure gets less and less. But we still produce hormones and chemicals in the body that adapt to stress. So we introduce, like, these artificial stressors to stimulate those hormones. It's like, why do people get selectively outraged about things? Because they have nothing else to worry about. Trust me, if you had negative $30 in your bank account and had no food, you wouldn't selectively get outraged about anything. You'd mind your own business and go to the grocery store. But it's like, that's how that works, right? Like, as you get further and away from, like, a tiger trying to kill you, you're going to start introducing things that make you feel stressed. You're going to sit in traffic. You're going to complain about shit. You're going to follow people you don't like on Instagram. Like, that's how it works.
So you're saying we have this need to just be pissed off?
Yeah.
And if we don't fill it with something,
then
we're going to select something to do.
Exactly. Because, like, I don't see poor people getting on Instagram complaining about, you know, their latte or, like, things that outrage them, like what pronoun someone chooses.
That's literally, like, first world problems.
Yeah, like that's first world problems.
You don't
created
have
something that sucks.
anything bigger to worry about, so you're just going to create something to be pissed off about.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is, in the first world, you get to choose what you get to worry about.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's a luxury, but most people don't see it as that. Like, if you don't see that as an ability you have to choose, then it's like, because, you know, when you can't live in a bucket in Russia, it's like they don't get to choose that mindset. It's like, well, at least we're at a point where we can choose to do this, and like you can kind of choose like what like rock to push up the hill or like what cross to bear. Go on. I saw
fine.
Go, dude.
I'm not going to make that reference on the podcast.
Go do it. Come on.
No.
Oh.
Okay, so fine.
I
So
love that. Like, how little arm twisted.
Like, choosing the rock you get to push up. I think, like, number one, you could look at Sisyphus and the fact he pushes a rock up a hill and he gets to, you know, decide whether he's just going to be the greatest rock pusher in the world and be happy with that, or if he's going to sit there and contemplate suicide forever because all he gets to do is push this rock up a never-ending hill. Or you can look at it like the Rodney King case, and when does the fucking video start? It starts at him pushing the rock up the hill, not at him being a dick. So I think people become martyrs to fake causes without really looking at where they started to begin with. Like, how many times do you hear people lament about, like, their debt in school? But it's like, dude, you didn't have to go. You could have done anything else. You could have worked on the line, but you went to school. So it's like they start the tape at where things suck. They don't start at the decision they made to let things suck.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's always like, I mean, it's so predictable. Like personal outrage and like social outrage is so predictable. Like, whenever there's an event, like there'll be like an outcry, an outpouring of like Kobe died. Like, that was crazy. Kobe Bryant is dead. Like, I'm not even a basketball fan, but I still like stopped and was like, whoa, like, you know, yeah, but like, you know. Then there's like, everyone's like, oh, Kobe, and there's like, oh, how many people even knew Kobe? Like, it's like, dude, that doesn't fucking matter. And then there's like someone else who will like virtue signal about something in like fucking Cambodia or something. Like, well, yeah, Kobe dead, but there's like 80 kids dead in a church in Cambodia. It's like, it's such a predictable algorithm of social outrage, and it's just people putting like their lens of virtue signal on something. Like, oh, look at me, I'm paying attention to this, or I'm paying attention to this, or I'm paying attention to this. It's like no one's getting like the full picture on like, or even like putting anything in perspective when it comes to that. Like, we had to go, I love how I drag you into all my bullshit. Like, remember that fucking CrossFit douchebag that was like putting up like an X on his hand and saying end slavery? It's like, yeah, thanks, man. You're a white pasty kid who makes like a couple $100,000 a year lifting barbells in Miami. Like, we didn't think you were pro-slavery before you put the red X on your head, right? I just don't understand. People can't, like, stay in their lane. Like, why do you need to be, like, you're a weightlifter, lift weights? Like people chime in with their opinions on stuff. It's like, stay out of it.
I totally agree. Or, like, if you're going to get into it, like, get into it, dude. Like, be Joaquin Phoenix. Break into the ranch and steal the cow. Like,
okay, explain that.
So, like, he's, like, all about, like, all these issues. But, like, he's tying himself to a bridge. He's, like, breaking into a cattle ranch and, like, stealing a calf and a cow.
I've heard none of these stories.
Yeah, like, he's going in.
Like the Joker? Like the Joaquin Phoenix, that guy.
Yeah.
Walk the line, dude.
Yeah. But, like, good for him. You know what I mean? Like, regardless if he's celebrity, if there's a camera there or not, like, he's not just posting it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, he's going out there. He's doing something.
There's at least some level of commitment there.
Yeah, like
right?
something.
You're
like,
taking
he's putting his
action
face
as
on the
opposed
line.
to just being angry on the internet.
Like, give me some skin in the game is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
like just don't put a red X out there. Like, dude, go
Exactly.
free some slaves.
Yeah, and no, 100%, man. Well, like, fuck. That, I mean, as weird as that sounds, like, if you're going to talk about it, be about it. Right? And that's so many people. Dude, there's this one fucking dickhead in Australia. I can't say no. And one day I'll name his name. It'll just slip, and I won't care, and we won't edit it. But, like, there's a bunch of fires in Oz, eh? Like, bad. Like, real bad. And I've been there.
Saving koalas.
Hey?
Saving koalas. That's
Dude,
the thing,
I was
man.
there for, like, probably about a month, maybe 5 weeks, since, like, December to mid to late January, and, like, smoke. Like, I was 2.5 hours away from the smoke. Anyways, to grease this guy, like, this guy went on to say that he wasn't saying anything about donating to the fires. He was like, you know, all these people are, like, leveraging their platform or, like, trying to, like, maximize their platform and exposure by, like, doing all this stuff. Whereas me, I'm just going to continue all to do this, like, do all my philanthropy work and all my donations in the background. It's like, do you not see how, like, ridiculous, like, how preposterous is that post? He's like, yeah, dude, right? It's like this. Why don't you just your next post should be you just jerking off on Instagram? Like, that's literally what you're doing. I see that, and you're just fapping it on the gram. Like, that's all you're doing. You're sitting there.
I've tried that. They take it down.
They take it down. Noted. No, but, like, he's taking a picture in front of him in scenic Australia that's not, like, burned down, and everyone else is, like, drawing attention. Like, there's that one female Australian comedian who raised, like, $50 million. And this guy's just trying to get a few more likes and followers by contrasting the crowd. And then doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. It's like, dude, you're the biggest douchebag I've ever seen.
But it's like philanthropy is just a consequence of, like, a selfish thing you wanted to do in the first place. So, like, who cares if it's selfish or not? Like, if you raise $50 million and it makes you feel good, fucking do it. She raised $50 million.
No, I'm all for
That's
that.
what I mean. Like, that guy doesn't make any sense. Like, philanthropy's selfish to begin with. If you can leverage an enormously selfish platform to do something good, it was selfish from the get-go. You either just suck at it or you don't.
Well, that's the thing. It's like he just did it not to serve the cause. He did it to serve himself. It's like, you want to serve yourself, grab a hand towel and go to the bathroom and leave us the fuck alone. Like, it's just so frustrating. Because it's like, dude, I mean, how many times have I said how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? Because it's like, you know, when we put stuff out or people DM, it's like you try and help people. And, like, I'm trying to draw a contrast between this mustache douchebag who's all up himself on the internet. Frankly, I don't need to do that. But it's like, at the same time, it's if that's how you are with issues like around philanthropy or around some sort of, like, national tragedy, it's like, I see how you now operate. Like, you've exposed part of your business to me. You've exposed your intent. And your intent is to walk into the bathroom with a hand towel wherever you go and jerk yourself off. Like, that is the crux of your business. You're not out to actually help people. You're out to help yourself, right? So whether it's selling shitty books at the airport or selling shitty programs or making shitty IGTV videos, you're doing this to service yourself. It's like, please grab your hand towel and get the fuck out of my feet. Unfollow.
I think if you walk into a public restroom with a hand towel, like, that's malicious intent.
Premeditated. Yeah. It's masturbation one. You knew what he was doing when he was going in. I don't know how we ended up here, but I don't know how we end up anywhere, if I'm being honest. Should we just close the curtain on this? Call this the intro and move over?
This is the hand towel of podcasts.
The sad part is we're not. The sad part is we are widely touted as one of the smarter podcasts in the fitness space.
Until now.
No, dude, this will 100% push the envelope in our favor. Like, because we'll talk about skill acquisition in a minute. I just want to talk about stuff that pisses me off. That's usually how the episode starts.
It used to be largely Bay Area traffic.
Well, he got to experience that yesterday, right? Driving behind the landscape truck where everyone's sitting around going, yeah, that'll hold. Meanwhile, there's a fucking garden spade that's, like, flying past your windshield, right?
17 sheep in the old Nissan Pathfinder? Yeah. What the fuck is going on?
I was taking the Reservoir Trail, and he literally had sheep in a pickup truck.
You're fucking kidding me.
100%. We talked about that yesterday.
What was he going to do with those sheep?
I don't know. He was just shepherding them in the back of a Ford Ranger. Yeah. It's like, dude.
Most efficient shepherd.
Yes, y'all are idiots. Everyone's sitting there with a staff on the side of the road.
How the fuck do you get sheep into a pickup truck?
I don't know. I had a hard enough time getting one dog in the back of a Tahoe and 2 other people. Let's just start contracts. Skill acquisition. So, well, you know what we'll do in the show notes? It'll be like the real episode starts 25 minutes in.
Unless you want to hear us talk about jerking off in public restrooms.
Again, I mean, we've done 150 episodes. It's been somewhat about us. Skill acquisition. Killian Hamilton.
Yeah, what a great segue.
Right, just tossing you in.
Yeah, so I think a big approach I have to training that I would say mirrors a lot of the same approach that you guys have in some ways is just like skill acquisition, understanding like stages of skill acquisition. understanding that to acquire skill or master skills outside of the gym, like we shouldn't look at them as two different things. Like I make the correlation to learning how to play the piano is no different than like developing a skill in the gym, say that's squatting or deadlifting or bench pressing. It's like when you learn how to play piano, the first thing you do is learn how to read music. There's no piano in front of you. It's just notes, and you learn what they mean and where they go on the staff and whatnot. And then you associate those notes with the keys on the keyboard. And then once you've associated where the notes are located, you take what you see on a piece of paper, associate it physically with where they're located. Then you learn how to play scales, you learn how to play songs, and that's autonomous. You're starting to take like a neurological and physiological function and marry the two with some degree of mastery. So I think that's no different than in the gym. It's like if I have command over what the muscles of my body do, say through action or function, I can better understand anatomy and physiology, and I can better understand how those things marry to movement. I can therefore master skill easier than other people because I'm not kind of just getting into a voluntary car crash 3 times a week. It's a little bit more premeditated. It's like a demolition derby.
Right. Yeah, it's the old figure 8 track. I think the interesting thing about that is the theory side. And I think that is the fundamental principle of like what everyone's missing. It's like no one thinks to learn, you know, FACE or every good boy deserves fudge, right? Yeah, on the line between the spaces, treble clef, bass clef, get at me. I'm a Renaissance man. Right. No, but like when I compare that to like actually like learning exercise, it's like everyone just wants to start where the rubber hits the road, man. It's like, nah, bitch, you got to read the book. And that's what really gets me. Like we were talking to Cody Amy. He's a bodybuilder in Canada. He runs Pure Muscle and Fitness. And he was talking to me about lunges. And I was like going through like, look, your hip extends 30 degrees. If you're going to go into a long stride, your torso has to bend forward. Otherwise, you're going to create either an unstable lumbar spine or you're going to create some sort of torsion around a hip that's trying to move too much on a pelvis that's not accommodating for it. So you're going to have to like, you know, tuck your rib cage down and hinge and then rotate to the opposite side to stabilize your pelvis accordingly. Like there's a lot to it. And he went, yeah, but in layman's terms. I'm like, no. That's layman's terms, right? Like that is FACE. Every good boy deserves fudge down the line. Like that's the theory behind it. And like you can't just go like, no, just put weights in my hands. It's like, no, you have to learn like the actual theory. And the nice thing is like theory, I think has like a dual meaning when it comes to like the music example, because it's not theory.
It's not.
Like theory has like an air of interpretation to it. Right, like you think of the word theory, like, oh, that's a scientific theory. It isn't proven. It's like, no.
It's a law.
This is not my opinion. We're not sitting here. That's like where we skate. I think a lot of arguments, and when we teach the prescript courses, is like, look, if you hate this, you hate
the human body.
Right, the creator or evolution or Darwin or whatever weird fish you have on the back of your car. Like that's who you hate. It's like this is just the way it works. We're just sitting here. Like, this is the principles, right? Like, and you talk about, like base level principles. Yeah,
base, like, first principles of mastery. It's right. Like, I think, like, even if you go back to, like, the looser interpretation of theory when it comes to learning how to, like, let's use the piano as an example. Let's run with it. It's like Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles. Those dudes can't see, but they can affect the keys far differently than I could affect the keys because they probably have a deeper understanding of how that ivory feels, right? Like, they get, like, the weight of keys, and they could probably tell piano to piano how they're different. I could sit on a Wurlitzer, I could sit on a grand piano. All the keys would feel the same. And I just play chopsticks, like in big, with my feet. But it's like these dudes get on with no eyesight. I bet you they could tell you what they're sitting behind. And they could affect the keys differently. So it's like that's a deeper level of understanding of mastery. Like when the Jiunta grabs a barbell to put it over his head, and when I grab a barbell and shove it into my hip and jump really high, that's two different things. I have no fucking clue how that barbell really feels. I just kind of get it in my mitt and hope I don't drop it. But, like, this dude gets it. He can feel the knurling. This guy probably picks up a $1,000 barbell and a $50 barbell, and he can probably tell the difference based on how they feel.
That's like the skill and habitude.
It's the skill and habitude. It's like understanding the base principles. It allows you to create, like, you master the art that way. Like, it's more translatable. Like you said, like, every good boy deserves fudge. Some people learn how to read music. Other guys sit next to the radio and learn how to play by ear. The dudes who learn how to play by ear can never write their own music. Mozart can sit with nothing in front of him and write epic amounts of music just by writing without a piano. Like, that's mastery. He gets it. He can hear it in his head because he has a deeper understanding of that art side of things.
Well, I think that's what, like, maybe even before the base principles, that's where it starts. Like, we all got into training with the idea of mastery in mind, and that there is an art to master, right? And I think a lot of people now with like the diversion of the attention or intention around training, it's like it's losing that artful perception. Where it's like I'm sure you go to meets and you watch guys, especially, I mean, I do it and I don't have that same sort of level of respect for Olympic lifting, and I watch it and I'm like amazed by it. But you being in the trenches and being competitive, like you must watch some guys move and like you just shake your head, be like, that was fun. It was music. It was poetry. Like you watch, Killian, I think you move pretty well. You're just self-deprecating because you're a humble piece of shit. But like, your music with a barbell, I'm noise. Like, if I were to do Olympic weightlifting, it would be like the monkey with the tambourine, like running around with 2 fucking cymbals in his hands. Like, that's me Olympic weightlifting.
I'm just a big baby with a broomstick, bro. Like, that's what I look like.
But, like, you respect the art when you got into it.
Right. That's why I think this is such a good comparison, learning to play music and learning by listening, by being able to write it and read music. It fits really well because think how accessible it is, especially nowadays with Instagram, the internet. Like lifting is an internet sport. Almost,
it is,
right?
100%.
Like on the long format versions, you might watch a 12-minute YouTube video.
Or listen to a 40-minute podcast.
Yeah, or listen to us
off in public bathrooms. It's an art.
It'll come full circle. There will be more jerking off references. But the idea there is there's no barrier to entry, right?
Exactly.
It used to be like, I know when I started lifting, you would go to the gym. I started with a lifting coach lifting for a sport, right? So there's some sort of end goal, some intent what we were training for there. I learned some basics, not great. But now people just see this stuff. There's a gym on every fucking corner in every fucking neighborhood. You can walk in, the equipment's there. You can just start lifting, right? Just because you're doing the thing and you saw the thing, you're trying to mimic this, doesn't mean you're doing it right.
100%.
And if you play a really shitty song on a piano, you can hear it. You can say, "Ooh, that was pretty bad." Yeah. But people aren't self-aware enough to know, like, all right, this is what I look like when I'm squatting. I don't have the background knowledge to know that what I'm doing is going to fuck up my spine because I'm not using my hips or I'm not, cueing my spine correctly or cueing my squat correctly. So there's that whole layer that's been removed, and then some sort of event has to happen for them to seek intervention, maybe an injury or I don't know, maybe they start training more specifically, so they want a coach. So then they have to take that step back and start to learn to read the music. So I think that's a really good comparison. And that's also why I'm drawn to Olympic lifting for myself and for coaching, because there's such a high level of buy-in with that. Like, you can pick up a barbell and you can see someone snatch, and you probably can't recreate that if you've never done a snatch before, right? So it's negative reinforcement right off the bat.
Jiunta's so hyped, like negative, like the Bobby Knight of Olympic weightlifting. Throwing a chair.
I'm all about negative reinforcement.
Yeah,
I think this
works.
comes back to the Windsor, Ontario, Dallas, Pennsylvania comparison, right? If you do it wrong, you don't deserve a pat on the back.
Yeah, where you can go in and catch a bicep pump, and all of a sudden that's your gold star. But yeah, and that's what kills me. Like, I think we all started the same way, right? Because the lowest hanging fruit is that pat on the back, is that bicep pump. But like even now, like, you had to go looking for information when we were kids. Like, we talk about BPAC all the time.
Yeah.
Like, now, like, I didn't have Instagram until we were in grad school.
Yeah, same,
right?
dude.
Which sounds like I didn't have the internet until I was 45. Like, it's the same thing.
I
but
thought
it's
it was
like,
just for porn until then.
and we come full circle and jerking off 100%. But it's like, there had to be an increased level of buy-in to go, get your Flex magazine or your Muscular Development magazine, or like you were in weird forums trying to get captured by a guy on the internet because you just wanted to know the optimal rep range for changing your quads. Like, that was it. So you're dodging pedophiles trying to find good information, where now it's like you just follow, unfollow. And with the good comes the bad, and there's a lot more bad information, but there's a lot less respect for the craft. Right, which for me, like, and for you guys the same, because like I still really like bodybuilding. Like, I've still stayed on that. I'm sure you guys the same, and just like with the barbell, just it being a much more visual expression of that skill. Like, when I talk about, like, we do a hypertrophy course now, when I like teach the principles of like how this all marries together with like the mobility and the stability and the strength side, and we look at programming not just from an exercise action standpoint, but an exercise function standpoint, and like how to minimize redundancy and exercise selection and length tension relationships and lengthen and shorten and mid range and all this. And people are going like, oh fuck, like I just got in this for the bicep pump. Like there's levels and there's depths and details.
But it's like that is the bicep pump, right? It's like, and it kind of goes to like the music example, or like the brain surgeon versus the carpenter example, right? Like if you look at stability and strength, or you look at like understanding the base principles and like catching a pump, it's like a brain surgeon can know everything about medical science, but if he's got 2 catcher's mitts for hands, he's just murdering people. And it's like if a carpenter can't do math, he can have all the tools in the world, he's never going to build a house. So it's like you need both. Like at some point, you know what I mean? You're going to get a lesser return on your investment if you don't pick up the other side. Like you're always like a linchpin to what you think you don't need.
The reason I think that, all of us can comprehend this stuff so much is because of our academic background or the learning that we've done on our own. Like, I take it for granted sometimes, but I've taken a year of physics, right? We've had our hands inside dead bodies.
Yeah.
Literally.
Inside fake buttholes.
And fake buttholes, yeah.
And maybe inside real buttholes.
Skill acquisition.
I don't know.
But the idea with that is you have these principles ingrained into you of just what gravity is, right? Like how physics work, how you have to lift this barbell and force transfer and things like this. And it just, some people without that background knowledge, it doesn't make sense. They're just, I want to do that.
For example, I have a library card just to like level the playing
the
field.
Goodwill Hunting of like.
But no, but I think to the same degree, it's like, like you take something in school and you learn it, or like you go learn it because you think you need to know it. It's like, it's all out there, man. Like, get a library card. You can read a book. Maybe you don't understand it fully, but you'll get something out of it.
Yeah, but it's the difference between reading and understanding, right? Like,
yeah.
And application, too. Is it
try it. Like
anything you're learning, if you can apply it to anything. I've applied all this stuff to weightlifting, right? You've applied it to maybe, hypertrophy training, bodybuilding, that sort of stuff. You can apply it to computer science, computer programming, whatever you want. All these principles that, you can apply that to the thing, to your craft, whatever that might be.
Well, but it takes a certain amount of depth and like how willing you are to go deep in a certain specialty. Like I think so many people are so gung ho to be like this jack of all trades, and the idea of being a super specialist is something that's seen as a negative thing. And it's like maybe it is, but unless you're really good at it. Like unless you're the super specialist of super specialists, then all of a sudden like you start looking around and there's not many people that can hang. Like when you talk Olympic weightlifting programming, you look around and you say things that are base principles and you think like, oh yeah, everyone knows that. And you're like, oh fuck, like I have to explain this to a room full of Olympic weightlifters who all have good totals. It's like, and then you start to like, where can you even find people that challenge you anymore in that specific, like you got to go to fucking Cal Strength. You got to talk to the guys at Catalyst. You got to basically, you're looking around and everyone has Olympic medals around their neck. And that's what it takes, just because most people didn't take the time to go deep and they just went wide. It's like, oh, I did Olympic weightlifting for a summer. It's like, that's great. You're mediocre at everything. It's like, I'd rather be, because if you're really good at one thing, you've at least acquired the skills to like go deeper in your knowledge base. And not only is it transferable from, like weightlifting to powerlifting to hypertrophy style training, but it's outside the gym. Like there's metaphysical or like lessons you'll learn in training or even dedicating your time or your life to a certain craft that when you come across something else, like, oh yeah, this is really similar when I had to comprehend this concept at this level of detail to the next level of detail. And you just can start to think laterally. I think people just move lateral first before going like deep into a subject, because it's like, well, that's really hard. And there's other people better at it than you are. It's like, yeah, until there's not.
Yeah, just applying that same process to a different end goal. Absolutely.
Like, yeah, before I like got into training and coaching and lifting, like I was a carpenter. And I remember going to school for it and like apprenticing. And the first day I was an apprentice, I was given a handsaw. And everybody had like skill saws and like table saws. And I was given a handsaw. And I was like, this is fucking impossible, man. Like, what are you doing? I sit here for hours. And the guy's like, yeah, you are going to sit here for hours. And dude, I took this handsaw to this piece of wood, and like I couldn't cut through it. I had no concept of like how to hold the saw or how much pressure to put, and I just butchered it. And this guy comes by and he cuts through it like butter, and like that was the thesis. It was like, dude, you got to figure out how to use the handsaw first, and like that's the base principle, right? It's like how much weight do you apply? How do you hold the saw? How do you manipulate the wood as you cut through it? That's cognitive, right? I've reduced all stress of cutting my hand off by giving me the dullest piece of shit. And I just got to understand, you know, like how much physical pressure it needs. And it's like from there you get a skill saw. From a skill saw you get a jigsaw. Then you get a chisel. And it's like you need to understand like these base principles of like how do my hands work to manipulate those tools. So I think coming from that background when I got into the gym, I got it. I was like, well, how does this barbell feel? Like I remember for hours going to the gym and like, dude, just putting a barbell on my back, like an empty bar. And like, where do my hands go? Like, how does it feel? Like, how can I manipulate my hand on the bar to change the leverage? And it's like, that's not stuff I watched in a video. I just knew, like, I've held a saw before. And it's like, okay, I know like how I put weight through my wrist in a saw. And then it's like, I grab a barbell and I'm like, how can I leverage my arm? That's like a base principle of understanding how to manipulate your body first.
And one thing further to that I think we've never talked about, I'm sure we've all done, is how many times have you thought about training? Right?
I haven't stopped in the last 29 years.
Yeah, I've like not thought about paying my taxes, but like I've definitely thought about training. And it's like you want to talk about base level like competencies and these basic principles, these first principles. It's like anyone who's good, like you talk to any Olympic weightlifter, especially weightlifting, like how big is visualization? Right? Like you can walk through and carve those patterns in your head without accumulating like the physiological fatigue of actually performing the skill, which would then degrade the output of the skill. Right? And so it's like that, unless you're willing to take it to that level, like I joke, but it's not a joke, that I lost 3 nights of sleep one time because I was thinking about bicep curls. I came up with like a conceptual framework around training one single muscle, but I thought about it over and over and over again. And thinking about it when I go into the gym, it's like, it's subconscious now. There's a competency that's there because not only have I done 10 bajillion bicep curls in my life, because that's all I trained for the first 3 years of working out, but it's like I've thought about it probably more than anyone that I've ever come across, right? And it's the accumulation of both. But most people think like there are people who are into it who will, you know, they'll go train. That's what separates really good powerlifters from bad powerlifters, and that's why I've always been drawn to bodybuilders, because bodybuilders, there's always a constant reminder when you're outside the gym about this is what you do. Where powerlifting can be a sport at the amateur and novice level that is done in the gym, where it's like, you know, if you're really about mastering something, like it's not just 8 hours a week and 160 hours a week you're just, you know, jerking off in public bathrooms or whatever your go is, but it's like, but if you think about what that takes, like what you're actually doing when you like visualize and you think about like whatever it is you're doing, it's you're creating that association without accumulating any sort of fatigue that would degrade that, right? Like there's crazy research on actual like motor learning where it's like you can take a bunch of people and have one group visualize shooting basketballs and the other group actually go out and shoot basketballs. But if you shoot enough basketballs, all of a sudden you're getting tired. Now you're not, because you're tired, you're not shooting accurate shots. So you have a group who's gone through the cognitive process of shooting nothing but successful shots. You've had another group go through the cognitive process of shooting successful shots and unsuccessful shots along with the physiological. But it's like, you want to kill a snake, cut it off the head, right? So here you have a group who's only practiced success, albeit only in the mind, but that's where it all starts anyways. And there's other group who's practiced in the mind, but also in practicing in the body has fatigued the mind. Now they're in a place where they can't practice a skill at a level of efficiency. It's like you want to really learn something, like that's how you do it. So you can think about the base level principles in the gym, but if you're not thinking about the base level principles outside the gym, it's like, well, you're really not there. Like I've never met anyone with a medal around their neck that hasn't done that doesn't like live and breathe it. And it doesn't have to be an Olympic medal. Like it can just be recognition as someone who's a superlative at whatever it is. Like if you're the best in the world at anything,
you're the best in the world.
But like you can make a living off it. Like there's a shop that says Vietnamese printing in downtown San Jose. Like how is that a business?
The best.
They're
of
the
what
best
they do,
in San Ho at Vietnamese printing. What was the rubber stamp one? This shop just sells rubber stamps. That's a super specialist. They're not Staples. We only fuck with rubber stamps. But it's like good for you, man. Like that guy's thought about rubber stamps at night. Had to have.
For sure.
Right? But I think that's, I don't know, like when it comes to like training as a skill, but as a career, as a passion, it's like it seems so simple to say, but like you just have to like think about it. But most people think about the end result. They don't think about the base principle.
Yeah, it's like behaviors over results, right? Like teams win games because they practiced enough winning behaviors to win. They didn't practice the result. It's like studying for an exam. You don't just take the exam every day and keep fucking failing it. You read the book that the exam is based on. You learn everything, and the exam is a test of what you learned. So it's like I think people are constantly just testing the end result versus practicing the behavior.
That's so true. And that's almost exactly the reason why I nerd out on program design.
Yeah, dude, I have a
Because-
whiteboard in my drawer that I literally write and erase and write and erase and write and erase.
I go notepad, straight up notepad. It's in my backpack right now.
So frustrating.
But-
to get anything on the computer with this guy is the fucking worst.
Me?
Yeah, you. Can you transpose
paper.
this to the
Fucking
21st? You know what I'm gonna
paper.
get you? There's that like iPad thing that like direct, or you write in the notebook and it puts it right
No.
on the thing.
Paper.
No,
Paper,
it is
dude.
paper.
The
Paper.
feel of the
Yeah.
of the ivory keys, the
Oh,
feel
all right,
of the
all right.
ink
the
on
pen,
the
dude,
notepad.
just mastered the
Just over here, just Ray Charles into the corner.
Dude, it's a beautiful thing. I don't know. My brain just works better that way. I have so many pictures of notepad
notepads?
sheets
Yeah, I have
on
the
my
same
phone.
thing.
I'm like, oh fuck, I'm gonna lose this. Like,
I have like an album of
But-
whiteboards because I
Yeah.
shout out the environment.
Shout out the environment.
those dry erase markers that are giving whales cancer
Yeah.
in Indonesia or something.
Shout out the environment.
We're not here to save the whales.
But seriously, like program design can have such a big effect on this sort of stuff. If you're, especially with people that I deal with, low level, entry level, they see the thing, they want to do the thing, they'll just fucking, all right, let's lift heavy. I'm going to max out every single fucking day because that's how I'm going to get better, because they're focused on the result and they're not focused on the process. And in learning the process, the skill acquisition, I mean, it doesn't show from my last competition, but my best movement of the three in weightlifting, the snatch, clean, jerk, has always been the jerk. There was probably a 2-month period where once a week I would do 100 split jerks with an empty barbell. I would just go over and over until I could not do the same thing, right? So you need to make that movement consistent. You need to feel every little bit from the ground up. Where's my foot position? Where's my ankle? Where's my weight distribution between leg to leg? What width do I want to go? What depth do I want to go? Where should my torso be? How am I going to breathe? How am I going to brace? What do I do with my shoulders? All these minute details, you can't figure that out in, I don't know, a training program with 30 reps a week, right? If you get over 10 weeks, if you have over 1,000 reps, you're going to be pretty damn sure of every single one of those little details, right? And that's what it takes. It takes thousands and thousands and thousands of reps. And I've been on a barbell since I've been, I don't know, probably 12 years old. What's that, like 17 years? Longer than I've not been on a barbell at this point. And I'm still questioning every little thing about what I do in the gym every single day. How can I make this better? How can I make this better? So it's an ongoing process, and the things that you need to make better get smaller as you go. But there has to be some sort of intent in how you're approaching your training, how you're designing your programs, and how you're cycling your training, and when you're testing to actually have progress at this stuff.
But the relative benefits you receive are still the same, right? Because like it's easy to put 30 kilos on someone's squat if they've never squatted before. Clean it up, make it more efficient. But it's like if you're setting a much lesser exponent to progress once you've hit this diminishing returns principle, like once you're so advanced in your training. But like, look, an extra 2% where you were getting an extra, like you can double someone's squat. So 100% improvement in their squat in 13 weeks, 12 weeks, 14 weeks, whatever. But it's like, okay, 100% of a shit number is still a weak ass person, right? And nothing against them, like we all
it's
start
very
somewhere.
true.
But now all of a sudden you're making 0.5% improvement, but you're making 0.5% improvement on like, hundreds of kilos. It's like it's still the same relative thing. And this is something that I teach when we talk about like how to actually improve and progress exercise. It's like if you need to cue someone in a low bar squat to keep their knees out, they shouldn't be low bar squatting. That's like reminding someone that they need to carry the one when they're doing quantum physics. It's like, no, you got to peel it back to a safe mode where this thing works properly, right? Put a kettlebell in their hand or do counterbalance or something where like that knees out is relative to the skill you're trying to acquire. Then once you've acquired it and you've done the 10,000 reps and you've done another 100,000 mental reps, then that knee is going to stay out. So when we get to the low bar position, like we can actually, I get accused all the time of using like being too complex. It's like, no, this is the requisite level of complexity you need to be the best in the world at something. Like cueing a head position or intent on an elbow and how that changed dynamically through the movement. It's like, yeah, this is relative to the low bar squat. This is the quantum physics. You guys are fucking about in the sandbox talking about 2 + 2. It's like we're trying to like do fractal fucking equations here because this is the arena that we're playing in. Right? And it's like, oh, you're overcomplicated. It's like, no, you're oversimplifying it because you don't respect the art of this thing. You think it's just 2 + 2, A to B. And it's like, then we get into the argument of like physics versus biomechanics. Like, it's not the bar moving from one place to another, right? It's about the body that's moving in between that and the dimensions of movement and like synergizing those movements and timing them properly. And it's like, yeah, it gets complicated quick, but don't hate me. Hate how your body's made. Hate how gravity exists. Like, I'm just here to tell you, like, that is, if you're going to make these 2% changes when you're already like at an advanced lifter, it's like, this is where you have to look. Like, these are the stones that people don't unturn, because when they started off lifting, they started off because they flipped open Instagram. It was like, that looks cool, I want likes, rather than like, man, do you think if I meet up with this guy, he's going to kidnap me or he'll actually show me how to train? Okay, he has a white windowless van with a mattress in the back. I don't think I'm going to train with this guy, but I really want to learn the best rep range to train my hack squats in. Like, this is the fucking jungle we had to walk through to get information, where everyone else is like, they don't respect it because it's like, yeah, double tap and move on. And like you described it the other day. Remember the Simpsons episode where like it's like probably not. My whole childhood is Simpsons. What were you talking about? Like the Indian that has a tear at the end and the whole city's on fire?
Oh, yeah. It's like when the episode of The Simpsons where the whole town turns to like a big garbage dump and they're driving out and there's like the one native and he has this one tear looking at the city.
That's what I look like. That's what I feel like when I see like the current state of lifting. And like there are some kids in it. We'll get a kid on the podcast. I hope he listens to this, named Nick Gloff. He's from PA. And he's like an upcoming like purist. And like, 'cause there's kids out there, and like social media is not all bad. It's not all like, you know, self-ingratiating, dick slapping, and virtue signaling. But I think it's becoming harder and harder to find people who respect the art of lifting.
Just because it's not sexy on Instagram. That's it. People with sound principles and, you know, saying, hey, just do your progressions and do this empty barbell work, and then maybe once you're worthy, we'll start to actually load it.
Right.
There's nothing fun about that.
I'll double tap that.
100%.
And that
I don't think so. I think it sucks to suck.
sucks to suck.
Stop sucking.
That'll be the title. Yeah. To win at first, you must stop losing. These are the base principles of life. Killian Hamilton, Jordan Jiunta, RX Radio. Cool.
Love it.